Well, let's continue. Um, I have finished the background, and now we can start to them. We don't have a math part also. I mean, the methods we use are already familiar to you, and any additional knowledge you have already taken in the previous math parts. So our starting point is again the main motivation of the companies, which is um, the uh, profit basically they earn. So the companies basically produce to get as much profit as possible. That's just like the utility in the consumer's case. So they just maximize the profits and they don't care for any other thing. And when we are talking on the profits, basically there are two factors that affect them: the revenues and the costs. So companies ideally want to increase revenues as high as possible and the costs so as low as possible. Well, for example, a famous newspaper uh, company owner in Turkey famously said, "For me, the best journalist is the one who sells least number of papers, who paints least number of papers for the cheapest possible price and sells them for the highest price, basically." Least amount of cost and sells them for a highest price. Basically, I mean, from the basic profit maximizing point, that's your aim as a company who is owning a newspaper. Um, well, the one thing is, in order to see the revenues, we also need to look to the demand. So, for this chapter, when we are just looking to the producers, we can only concentrate on the costs. So, our focus is the costs. And now we will ask how can we describe the costs? And in that, when we are looking to the costs, there are two types of costs defined for a company, for anyone actually, but for the company, these costs become more visible. One is what I'm calling physical cost. Physical cost means actually, I mean, the cost of the things you buy, you actually pay, you physically pay for those costs. So it is a cost that you can see in your accounting. The second type of cost is called the opportunity cost. And opportunity cost is the cost of not using resources in somewhere else. Opportunity cost is actually a term which many instructors would teach you at the very beginning of the economics. But pretty much, I mean, even though it is taught as a term, it is not used for the most part of the economics course. So I decided to just teach you what opportunity cost is at the uh, point where it is really important. And that's exactly this point I'm in microeconomics and producers theory. Here it will make a difference, but you need to wait to see where exactly the difference will come. Um, well, to see opportunity cost a little bit more clear, you can think about this. For example, let's say I'm making an investment and I that investment is $2,000 worth. I mean, that investment might be buying a shop, for example, or even if I have a shop, I can buy uh, 3 or 4 or 10 more tables to that shop. So $2,000 is the physical cost I'm paying for that investment. I mean, of course, if I buy tables, it's probably it might be a restaurant, but I can also use the tables maybe for stuff if it's for example supermarket to sell that stuff. I don't know. But anyway, if the $2,000 is the money I pay for this investment, $2,000 is my physical cost, the money I actually pay. Um, but the opportunity cost is the revenue benefit I could get if I use this money for an alternative use. For example, if I could put this money to a bank and assuming that the interest rate of the bank is $5, in that case, by putting this money to the bank, I could get $100. So basically, this investment make me also lose this $100, which means this $100 is my opportunity cost. Well, we might also actually add risk premium to the opportunity cost. We might think that basically the when we put the money to the bank, it is relatively riskless. But when we buy extra tables, for example, for a restaurant, it's not 100% clear whether this will increase our revenues. So basically, making an actual investment contains a risk. So basically, because of this risk, this possibility to lose is also a cost that additional creates an additional opportunity cost, which means actually, in order to actually pay off my investment, it should basically bring me a revenue which is more than my physical cost, $2,000, but also more than my opportunity cost plus the physical cost actually. So it should bring me a revenue more than $2,100. And if I add risk premium, for example, 2% risk premium, it should also be higher than physical costs, this opportunity cost created by interest rate plus also the risk premium. Opportunity cost is mostly assumed as zero, but at one point, actually, we will bring it back to explain the difference of the outcome of perfect competition model, basically with the real world cases. Anyway, let's continue. Well, now our concentration will be in the remaining part of this lecture, physical costs. And there are two types of physical costs. One is the variable cost, one is the fixed cost. Variable cost is type of cost that increases when you increase the level of production. That's why it is variable cost. It varies when you produce more. Fixed costs are the costs that are always stable when you produce a certain whatever amount you produce. So if you are talking well, we think, for example, a restaurant. Well, some costs might remain the same whatever level of customers we have. For example, the rent we pay for the restaurant. Other costs might vary when we basically have more customers. For example, we might use the oven more when we have more customers because we do more cooking, for example. Or cleaning costs, we need to clean the tables more frequently if we have more customers. Those costs are variable costs. Well, some costs might fall in between. I don't know, maybe electricity. We might have more electricity when we have more customers, but we also need to have a fixed amount of electricity, even if we have zero customers, as long as we are expecting some customers. So there could be some costs that might be in between, but ultimately we might say, some costs are have more variable nature. Some costs have more fixed nature. They don't vary that much when the output that is produced is stable. For example, machinery in factories is usually, it can be considered, or the infrastructure, the building of the factory might be considered as a fixed cost. While raw materials are clearly variable cost. That cost increases when you produce more. When we add the variable cost and fixed cost, then we got the total cost, which is, I think, straightforward. Now, we come to the definition of the short run and long run for this lecture. Short run is the time when the capital of a firm, that means infrastructure and the machinery, means of production, is fixed. So, only number of workers can vary. You cannot get a bit bigger building. You cannot get more machines or better machines in the short run. In the long run, capital and labor both can vary. So you can get a bigger building or better building. You can get a better machines or more machines or both. Technology is fixed in both short and long run. So even in the long run, you cannot get better technology. You don't have improvements created by the technological development. So this is how we define short run and long run. And again, time frame depends how much time you need to, get more machines, get better infrastructure. So get more or less vary your amount of the amount of capital you have. Again, you can also not sell the machines you already have, or you cannot also get to a smaller place if your demand is low. For example, fixed means also you cannot decrease your capital if some of your capital is redundant in the short run. In the long run, you can do that. Let's continue. So now we will look to the productivity of the labor, and that will be our starting point. When we have a company, the easiest and most straightforward quantity we can get is the average productivity. In order to calculate average productivity, basically we are talking here productivity of workers when we are because our analysis starts with the short run, and when we are looking to the short run, basically workers are the only thing that varies. And average productivity in a factory is just number of output that is produced divided by number of workers. So if you produce 1,000 units of TVs and 100 workers, then average productivity is 10 TV per worker. You can use average productivity to calculate the labor costs. So if 10 TV is produced per worker, if you pay to the workers $10, in that case, with this $10, let's say, this can be $10 per hour, and 10 TVs could be produced per hour. In that case, you pay $10 per worker for the workers, and that worker produces 10 TVs, which means per TV the average variable cost, the cost you pay for the worker, is $1. Again, we don't take into account the machinery is actually not variable. You cannot vary it, which means actually it is part of the fixed cost. And basically, labor is the only factor that adds value to the raw materials. So, basic labor cost in this case is $1 per TV, and labor is in this case the only variable cost of production. And through the production, we add values to the raw materials we are using in the production. So, now we have the second concept we define in marginal sense, which is marginal productivity. This is a second marginal a variable we define in marginal sense, let me say. And here, actually, the definition is similar. If you review the marginal utility concept, you'll see the parallels. Marginal productivity is the addition to the production level created by the last worker. So, if when we have 100 workers, the factory produces 1,000 TVs, and when we have 101 workers, factory produces 1,008 TVs. In that case, marginal productivity of the 101st worker is 8 TVs. In this case, if $10 is paid for this worker, the average variable cost of the last 8 TVs is $1.25. So we will continue in the next part. See you in the next part.